Shalom Rastafari, Assalamu alaikum, peace to the kings and the queens of the earth. How's everybody doing toward the end of this week? Want to give a big shout out to everyone who has practiced Ramadan. Very proud of everyone who has made it through. And to everyone who's just made it through these times, through the week. You know, things are better. It's Friday, so let's just enjoy it and take one day at a time. Today is April 21st, and the reason why I'm saying the date, usually I do not say the date because of the significance, but today is a special day. It marks the anniversary of the first visit that King Selassie I took to the island of Jamaica, April 21st, 1966. So I just wanted to go into what that means as far as the Rastafari faith and how and why that was such a special visit. During the time, 1966, Jamaica was also going through somewhat of a kind of a retool. They had just gained their independency and, you know, considering still there, but a low class, minor third world nation that was just trying to find that identity and get to the modernization in the forefront. And during these times, usually when things are like this, if you look back in the past of history, there's usually a call to leadership. Some people just want to look for that person to lead them out of captivity, so to speak, put them into the next, realm, get them to the next level. And King Selassie I was actually his entire calling, or his entire kingdom, or his entire message was actually, kind of in the beginning, it was literally talked about to a point where before he was even coronated, they were talking about him. So it was almost like prophetic. That's what I was trying to get at. Almost like a prophecy, right? Because of the lineage, because of how we have a connection with Ethiopia, and because of how Jamaica kind of put that John the Baptist, that battery in the pack of that calling. There's definitely other people besides just Marcus Garvey. There's definitely other, we call them the first Rastas. I did a blog on a couple of historic people in the Rastafari faith that have literally announced, saying, look to the east, there is a king that'll be crowned, and that he will lead us out the way. Now, there's a lot of things back in these days. If you look at how he was revered, people literally thought that he was a living God. And in essence, because of his actions, because of his, I remember always hearing from the OGs that he was the modern day Jesus Christ because he was reincarnated. He was, he rose from the dead, so to speak, where when he was attacked by the Italian forces of pussy-ass Mussolini, who tried to bully and, occupy Ethiopia for 6 years, did nothing with it but just, tear the people up, enslave, and practice war crimes on them, for him to come back. And then King Selassie came back with the allies with a better Ethiopian army and eventually ran them out of Ethiopia. So they kind of thought that he was like the reincarnate. I remember hearing this from the OGs from a long time, from the elders, so to speak, that he was just, Jesus Christ, like where he came back. I remember hearing a couple of my people who were actually at this event, April 21st, and they said that when he put his hands up, they were piercing in his hands. So like he was crucified, and they were saying they were thinking that he is the second coming of Jesus Christ, like Jesus Christ came back in the form of Saint Selassie I. So what I personally believe, and we got into the education of it, is that he's a man to be revered. Excuse me, he's a man to be revered. He's a man to be respected. He's meant to be studied because of his actions. Now, reading the story of April 21st, 1966, a lot of people literally said a miracle happened where Jamaica was on a huge drought, a really, really bad drought. And when he came, he brought the rain with him, and the rain was needed. I feel that was the Creator showing that, if anything, that he may not be a living God, but he is a special person to be revered. Now, you only pray to one God. So that's the thing that we have to get the confusion out of it. If you see some Rastafari always saying, they kind of end their prayer with Selassie at first. And I just hope that is more of a prophetic, prophet-like type of prayer than a prayer toward a man who you think is a god. What I've been taught about King Selassie I is that he is Christ-like in his kingly character. That was taken from one of the best people I've known in the Rastafari faith and who I follow. Christ-like in his kingly character. Christ-like in his kingly character can actually enter to anybody. We can all be Christ-like in a form. You're probably like, well, what do you mean? Well, how's that happen? I'm not Jesus. Well, if you have to understand the Bible or overstand it, when people like to say like, well, I'm not Jesus because he made the blind see. Well, yeah, he did that, but you can be Christ-like in the form of that if you have the truth and you need to teach somebody the truth, and that opens their eyes to a different world, if it opens their eyes to a different perspective, if it opens their eyes to a different form, then you've done the same thing. If you've educated, if you've healed, you might have even given someone something that healed them, or you've been there with them through some tough times that if you weren't there, maybe they would have taken a different route, maybe got worse, maybe taken their own life. And because you were there, you saved their life. That is Christ-like. Okay, that is Christ-like. And you did it from the heart. You didn't do it vindictively. You didn't do it for selfish reasons. You didn't do it because you wanted to make yourself feel good about some stuff. And so you just do this act and then you're hoping that that's going to, no, you did it off instinct alone. And that was because of your heart. That is Christ-like. Selassie was 100% Christ-like as far as what he did with the Orthodox Church, what he did with his wife, the Queen, as far as opening hospitals, modernization of Ethiopia, opening up the first airport in Ethiopia so that people who had this, who wanted to see Ethiopia and wanted to kind of see the land, they needed an airport. So he bought that airport, and that was a big move because that allowed tourism to come in and come to that area, and to modernization again of Ethiopia, putting Ethiopian students in American classes. There is a huge Ethiopian contingent or community in the Washington, D.C. area because of this. This is documented. This was also documented on the John F. Kennedy visit when King Selassie came to New York and was welcomed by John F. Kennedy. And then John F. Kennedy was assassinated, I think, 40 days later. And one of the only black people that were on the front line for his funeral was King Selassie I. He came back for the funeral for John F. Kennedy. That is documented. That is right there. You can look that up. There are pictures. So what I'm getting at is when he touched down into Jamaica, there was a frenzy. There was you kind of compare it to a leader coming back and he has just been revered and he has never been seen. And there's just been so many, not rumors, but there's things like he's Jesus. He's going to save us. He's going to get us back to the land. And a lot of people, it's a different kind of connection between Jamaica and Ethiopia, right? It's really kind of Ethiopia people really like, oh, it's such a poor land. Why would you see it as a promised land? Why would you see this as anything? And it's also Jamaica looking at it like, no, you're the land, you're the East, you're the promised land that we were talking about biblically. And that connection can be kind of separate, but here's the truth about it. It's two nations that, to me, know that there is something special about this man and his entire regime. What he did, what he stood for, and what he even told to the Rastafari as far as how he knows. He understood fully who we are and what we worship. Now, if you want to pray to Selassie, that is something that even in his teachings that he says, I abide myself in the Bible. He's very biblical. Now, the Ethiopia love is because if the Ethiopia is all over the Bible. There is not too many African nations that are being mentioned, but Ethiopia is. If you were to look at how many times Ethiopia is mentioned into the Bible, there's a reason. And these things ultimately It's almost the Horn of Africa. Well, there's something special about that land. It's a beautiful land. The oldest bones. These are things you can look up. The oldest bones found to this day on a human being is an Ethiopian female who was. They said that the carbon is like almost 400,000, 500,000 years ago. So it's very, obviously it stands for something. Again, it showed its toughness. It showed its rebirth through him, and it's just a special place. I would love to visit, and I'd love to go see the kingdom. I would love to go see how he operated, where he walked, because I compare him to people like the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the Honorable Louis Farrakhan, Malcolm X, leaders, strong leaders that I revere. The list goes on. I can go back, George Washington Carver, W.E.B. Du Bois, people like that, these frontline soldiers who stood up and literally dedicated their life, reading the life about Selassie, barely getting like 4 or 5 hours of sleep because he barely at one point ate. I remember he said he ate like some bread, eggs, and fruit, and then he just had a light, small dinner at the end of the day. But that was he didn't really eat much. That was small. And he, as short as he was, he commanded respect, and he is to be revered 150%. I believe that, yes, they're saying that he opened up the 7 books of the sealed and the Lion and Tribe of Judah. I believe he is a window. I believe he is a sign, and a Christ-like sign to know that first, there's one God, 2, to believe in what you need to believe in. And if you feel that in your gut, to go with that one God source, that is exactly what Selassie stands for. He also, again, wasn't just Christian. He had Christian churches, he had mosques, and he also had synagogues all on the same street, and at one point praying together. So you see how I'm saying, like, these things that these things that are not talked about in his life are the reasons why Rastafari reveres him so much. Again, he's the king of kings. He's the last king, and these are coming from other people too. I remember Honorable Louis Farrakhan even said that he gave the Black nation a king. You got King Arthur over there, or King Charles, or whatever. We have King Selassie the first. I'm sorry to say, but a real king who didn't have to colonize on the earth to get his kingdom. Let me say that one more time. A real king who did not have to colonize the earth to get his kingdom. So I had to do it today, obviously April 21st, because I just woke up and I'm like, wait a minute, there's a day today. This is a special day. And I had a different talking, but I guess I'll just say that for Monday. But I just wanted to give respect and honor, one, to my Rastafari lions and lioness for continuing their education and continuing to bang Selassie first, because he is to be revered. And 2, just to give a shout out to, everyone, and give some education on him. Again, do some research. Always, try to you can do a simple Google, but in essence, try to get some books. Try to really look into his life. Him and his wife were beasts. They literally just did nothing but work. And there's some disagreements about how things happened. And look, I will forever love Selassie the first. I feel that when I see this man in the other side, he's gonna have this biggest smile on his face, just looking at me, about 5'8", looking up at me, and he even had stories. One of those stories that I like was some people like this story. It's he was driving. He used to drive around. I guess he was driving it with his Jeep and with his security. And this one boy told a story about how he was kind of sneaking around with his girlfriend, right? He was like 11, so they kind of got alone. They were just holding hands, innocent stuff. They're just holding hands down the street. And all of a sudden, he says, the king just turns the corner. He comes around the corner. He's just driving around the community. He turns the corner. And he quickly, I guess he not pushed the girl, but he just took his hand away from her and kind of got separate. And Selassie, I pulled up and he said, I saw you. That's okay, I saw you. And started giving him a big smile and laugh and told him to be good and go to school and things like that. Just so you know, you can probably see he has probably an amazing heart, but still had the strength, right? You could tell when things were on, when the time when Italy was attacking, he definitely did not want to leave, but he had to. And then he came back with the power to keep them the fuck out of there and get his land back to the modernization and get back to work. Selassie the first, and then he came to Jamaica, delivering that power, giving them that drive, letting him see who he is, right, and saluting and making speeches. And like I said, I think he confirms everything. And there's a lot of different beliefs. Like I said, there's a lot of beliefs in the Selassie character and as far as Rastafari, but I come to bang the truth, and I'm going off the words that he said himself. He's not a god. As far as the person that you pray for, we are all gods under the Most High God. So we can't be praying to each other. We pray to one God. That's one. Number two, his education, his works speak for itself. So it's almost like if you strive to be Selassie-like, which is getting up every day and being militant, that's something Selassie-like. So yeah, let's be Selassie-like in our characters, getting up and being militant and doing the best we can for our people, for our family, and for ourselves. Happy Friday, y'all. Much love.